represented the party, her mother, that said that she was an unfit mother, that she had a violent nature, that she was an absentee mother, and so he represented the party that took away custody of her 12-year-old son. These are people who are seeking revenge, much like criminals who are seeking revenge, like the drug dealer that Judge Moore sent to jail just happens to have a brother who's an editor on the Washington Post. I mean, if we had real journalism, we'd be asking questions on both sides.
We do. That's exactly what we do every morning here, and I'm glad you're here to answer them. Let's listen to one of your colleagues on this team. The chief strategist for Roy Moore came on this network last night. His name is Dean Young. Here's what he said about the accounts of Roy Moore dating teenage girls. Listen.
If he did date a teenager, he didn't know about it. So I can't tell you how many times I've been on a date and didn't ask a girl how old she was, especially after I asked their mama if I could date them.
Okay, generally important if you have a question about age to know whether someone's underage, but let's put that aside for a moment. That argument does not hold water, Janet, and here's why. Debbie Wesson Gibson, 17 at the time, detailed to the Washington Post in a new piece just yesterday the date she went on with Roy Moore when he was 34, the fact that they kissed. She shows, and there are photographs of the card he gave her for her graduation, what he wrote her when she was graduating from high school, and now your colleague says, well, he didn't know he was dating any teenagers. And you said the same thing to my colleague, Aaron Burnett, that he didn't know he was dating any teenagers. My question is, factually, just yes or no, did Roy Moore date Debbie Wesson Gibson and kiss her when he was 34 and she was 17?
I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that what Debbie Gibson said when she wasn't campaigning for Judge Roy Moore's opponent and posing with pictures she's proud of Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, what she said is that Judge Roy Moore gave a gift to her fiancé with a congratulatory note. Let me tell you what passes the straight face test. I'm telling you, when I got engaged, no ex-boyfriend gave my husband a gift of any kind, but we did get many gifts from family friends.
You seem to be saying that all of these women are basically Democratic operatives, that they all want Doug Jones to win.
Well, this particular woman, she scrubbed her Facebook page like her Hillary, her hero.
Lee Corfman voted. Okay, Lee Corfman, who says she was molested as a child at 14 by Roy Moore, voted
whose mother disputes her
voted
her
for President Trump. And in the past 3 presidential elections, voted for Republicans. So is your argument here just that these are people with a political vendetta against Roy Moore?
Well, when you've got somebody campaigning for Judge Moore and the most they can come up with is that he's a really nice guy and he gave my fiancé a gift and our families exchanged Christmas cards.
So you're not answering my question. My question was just about Lee Corfman, going back to her, going back to the first allegation of these women against Judge Roy Moore.
The first allegation
this is a woman who has repeatedly voted for Republican candidates.
Maybe she has, maybe she hasn't. What's lacking in all of this is cross-examination, is oath-taking, is the evidence examination.
I just asked you if Roy Moore would go under oath and testify before Congress on this. And instead of answering that with yes or no, you said, well, it's Al Franken that leads the committee.
I don't think he needs to bow to the demands of Gloria Allred. I don't think he needs to bow to the demands of Gloria Allred and sit under Al Franken in the Senate committee.
This is an American citizen. Would he go under oath and answer these questions that the American people deserve answers to?
Well, again, what are the questions? The questions, looking at the non-accusers, I think that those questions are completely irrelevant.
Is he guilty of pedophilia and child molestation? I think no matter what your political persuasion is, those are important questions to be asked. So again, I will ask you.
May I respond?
Again, I will ask you, will Roy Moore, will he be willing to go under oath and testify?
The place to testify under oath, and of course anybody who's being brought under trial would do so, the place to testify under oath is in a court of law.
But as you know, these are allegations from the 70s. There will be no trial.
There will be some lacrosse players in jail right now.
There will be no trial because legally,
let me tell you about what
that's not possible. I mean, you know that.
Here's a question that should be asked. If you care about child abuse, you should be talking about the fact that Judge Roy Moore stands for protection, not only of our Second Amendment rights so we can protect ourselves against predators, for the rights of babies like your 8-month baby that you're carrying now. Doug Jones says you can take the life of that baby and we should pay for it.
Let's leave my child out of this.
Who wants to sell
my child out of this.
Well, it's really the children of Alabama that we're talking about, and the Alabamians understand that if we're talking about what's at stake here, we're talking about fake allegations, concocted stories about an innocent man versus real threat of child
all
abuse,
of these
not
women,
only in the womb,
Janet,
but also in the locker room.
Janet, I have respect for you for coming on this show, for taking the time, but I want to make it very clear so everyone understands. You believe that all 8 of these women whom CNN has vetted their stories are lying, that these are, in your words, fake allegations, women that do not know one another.
There are only really three.
Dozens
There are
of
only
people
3
have
accused.
corroborated their accounts. Yes or
May I
no?
respond?
Yes or no? Do you
What
believe
I
any
believe,
of them?
8 of the people are non-accusers that did not accuse Judge Moore of any
Do
sexual
you believe
misconduct.
these women?
The
Would you
other
like me to
3
name
that
them?
have,
All right, I'm going to name them, okay?
Well, I'll
Lee-
name them. Beverly
Lee
Nelson,
Corfman.
who's yearbook, she's the yearbook fraud. She's the yearbook forgery lady. Then you've got Tina Johnson. She's the one that pled guilty to felony fraud and was arrested for theft by deception, which, by the way, is what's happening in Alabama.
So you know
They're
what?
trying to steal this election by deception. That's what's happening.
Hold on, Janet.
And so
Hold on,
we
Janet.
believe that
We
the
have
people of
them on the
Alabama are gonna
screen,
stand.
and we have very strict vetting policies of people that we will even put on that screen here at CNN. These are the women. You
about a motive?
just labeled Beverly Nelson as the only label you gave her is yearbook, that she's lying about a signature in her yearbook. Here's the
no,
description.
she lied about more than
Here's
that.
the description that
Let
we
me
give
just-
her.
can I
A
respond?
woman
Because
who
you've gotta
at
give me a chance
16
to
years
speak,
old
Bobby.
says she was sexually assaulted in Roy Moore's car behind the restaurant
All
where
right,
she
and you know what
worked.
else she said? She said she started working there when she was 15. Turns out you got to be 16. She said that the dumpsters were behind the restaurant. Turns out they weren't.
So that means
she
she's
said
a
it was
liar?
dark. No,
Does that
it was
mean
well
she's a
lit.
liar?
She said it closed. The waitresses who worked at the Old Hickory Inn say that she is, and so they should know. They work
But
there.
you
and they
believe
said
them.
every
You
point of her
believe those
story was false.
waitresses
Everyone.
over her. Please answer the first
Well, we've got
question
not
that I
just the
asked, which
waitresses.
is, do you believe any of these women, any of these 8 women? Do you believe any of them?
I
Yes
believe
or
that
no?
Beverly Nelson's own attorney doesn't believe in her. That's why she won't release the yearbook.
We have had Gloria
independent
Allred
count. By
on,
the way,
and we've asked her those
by the way,
questions. My question to you is, please answer my question. Do you believe the allegations of any of these 8 women, Lee Corfman, Tina Johnson, Gina Richardson, Beverly Young Nelson, Wendy Miller, Gloria Thacker Deason, Kelly Thorpe, Debbie Wesson Gibson? Do you believe any of them, yes or no?
your premise is wrong, Poppy. I got to call you on it. Debbie Gibson, who is who's a supporter of his opponent,
So that's
did
a
not
no.
accuse him of any sexual wrongdoing.
Just to be clear,
and the
that's
others
a,
have no
that's
evidence
a no.
whatsoever.
That's a no, correct? You don't believe any of them.
Those who you claim have evidence, the 3 that have allegations have no evidence. In fact, quite to the contrary, they've all been discredited. But what matters is the people of Alabama believe the judge who has stood for life, for liberty, for honesty, for integrity.
Do you believe
and
any of
impeccable
these
character
women?
For 40 years.
Do you believe any
I
of these
believe in
women?
the man that I know and trust for the last 20 years, that served in public office for
So
40 years.
you're
And
not
you wanna know
going
what
to
all this
answer
is about?
our question.
I'll tell you what it's about. It's all about the Supreme Court of the United States. You realize that this is a winner-take-all race, that the one who wins this race is the one who will decide the Supreme Court for the next 30 or 40 years.
I think there are a lot of really important issues at play here, right? And American people will decide, the voters of Alabama will decide. Among those important
And
issues,
if we let the lynch mob
among those important
media
issues are
decide, there'd be some
accusations of
lacrosse players
pedophilia
in
and
jail right
child
now.
molestation, and I'm asking for an answer. Final question to you. Roy Moore has not been on CNN to answer these questions for himself since
I can see
February of
why.
2015 when he did an interview with Chris Cuomo, who's sitting right next to me. Why won't he come on and talk to us?
Well, you're not exactly, there's a reason why the people have the phrase fake news, because you're not investigating the false accusations, the credibility problems that are screaming from the forged yearbook to every single thing that's been disputed. And so what I think that he has a right to stand with the people of Alabama and not be subjected to more and more harassment against people who are out to get him because there's a Senate seat in play that has the Supreme Court in the balance. So I side, instead of with the lynch mob media, instead of the Democrat liberals, instead of the convicted felons that George Soros is now registering to vote, I side with the man who stood for the 10 Commandments, who stood for God, who stood for his principles, has an impeccable character that even Debbie Gibson says is the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet, who never did anything beyond any sexual misconduct or anything illegal in any way.
Janet, I appreciate you taking the time this morning, answering the questions, being with us. We welcome Roy Moore, the candidate, to
pleasure.
join us at any time. Thank you very much.